Welcome to Chandwell. My name's Michael and I'm building this model of a run-down West Yorkshire town set in 1993. I've started this tall building on Station Road and you'll notice that I've started with the inside. This Indian restaurant will have large windows on the front and the side walls, which means that the light will be able to go all the way through. Now I don't light my buildings, but I think in this case I really do need to have a hint of an interior. So for this building I've started at the inside and I'm working outwards. Let's have a look at the steps I went through to get this far in this building on Station Road. This building is part of the old Foxton's Brewery complex at the bottom of Station Road, and it's unusually tall compared to the buildings around it. As well as modelling the interior, I also want to make the walls a lot stronger than I normally do, because I don't want to risk any of these walls warping during building or afterwards, so I'm making these a little bit thicker than usual. I started in the free software Inkscape and I drew the building's plan. I will be using 2 layers of 0.5mm card for the decorative outer faces. My 0.5mm card, once it's got the front layer of sticky label on it, actually turns out to be something more like 0.7mm. So I drew 2 layers of 0.7mm around the inside of the plan shape. I will use an inner frame of 1mm card to support the outer faces. This is thicker than I would usually do, but I feel that these tall walls will benefit from the extra support. I draw these layers inside the outer ones. I will include floors within these walls to hold it all together. I can easily draw the floor shape inside the wall layers. To support the floors and help me keep everything square, I will use a further set of 1mm card shapes between the floors. I draw these on too. From the elevation drawings, I take away everything other than the absolute basic shape. I then need to remember to trim off the edges to make each one the correct width to fit in its place in the plan I drew earlier. I draw on the floors with a stripe the same width as the width of the card I'm using, and at last I'm ready to print it all out. I arrange all the parts onto a couple of sheets of A4 sticky label and get 2 fresh sheets of 1mm greyboard card. The labels attach directly to the card, and then I start cutting it all out with the large knife. I try to do all the long cuts first with everything aligned as best I can to avoid making 2 cuts when only one will do. I'm eventually left with a kit of parts ready to assemble. I write on them with a pen to help me arrange them later. I'm making the back wall and the left wall the main backbone of this building. Using my scale model scenery right angle jigs, I apply glue down one edge of the back wall and then stick the left wall on top. At this point, I realised that I'd stuck it together without cutting the windows out first. Try again. Using my scale model scenery right angle jigs, I apply glue down one edge of the back wall and then stick the left wall on top. I press it hard into the jig to get the angle as true as possible. You'll also notice I printed them with the label facing inwards. This will help me to align the floors correctly later on. With a final press, the PVA holds the parts together straight away and I can start adding the insides. I apply glue and add the inside supports, starting at the bottom. First one side and then the other. Thankfully, it all aligns with the grey floor marker. The floor sits on top of the support and goes in nice and square. I repeat with the basement side wall and the back one. I need to trim this bit to allow for the overlap of the side road. The ground floor drops on top and is nicely aligned. More supports are added at this stage. It's time for the interior. The windows are going to be large, but I don't normally put lights inside my buildings, so the detail doesn't need to be very precise, just needs the merest hint of a detail, so that when you happen to look through it and catch it, it looks as though there's something in there. I print a very basic set of walls. Once inside the dark building, this will look a lot darker. I add the floor with PVA. I've left space for a hint of the kitchen and the toilets. I test fit at this point and see that the floor is exactly the right height for the building's position in the street. I add the interior walls. I take care to keep everything flat. I lie the building on its side to ensure I'm pressing it onto the flat wall and not causing it to bow inwards. The decorated walls go on next. I use a pen to colour in the insides of the window aperture on the building and on the texture. I draw a simple table plan in Inkscape and then print some basic shapes onto some sticky label. Once added to 0.5mm card, I can glue these tiny slivers of card together. This makes the most basic of tables. I glue them into the building. A tiny red sticky label tablecloth can be added on top, and then a white one on top of that. We've all seen those white paper toppers that go on the tables to ensure a quick turnaround of sloppy eaters. There we are, the interior of the restaurant ready to get its ceiling added. Just like that. Thanks to my careful arrangement and measuring in Inkscape, I've had to do no other fettling on the model. It's all gone together first time. I've also added hints of an interior on the upper floors as well, but very, very basic. You probably won't see much of those at all, so I don't want to do too much on that. So that's it. I'm going to do the front and the side walls next, with a little bit of interior detailing, but it's all about the outside on those walls. So join me next week and we'll have a look at that. The last time I made a building starting from the inside and working out was the Weir pub. So here's a look at that video if you want to have a look at how I did that almost 4 years ago, can you believe it? Next week then, it'll be the front and the side. If you want to see behind the scenes videos of how I'm progressing with that, I make one once a week for my channel members. If you're interested in becoming a channel member, there's a join button on my YouTube channel just underneath this video. It's a great way to support the channel, and if you're interested, it's worth having a look. So until next week then, where we look at the front and the sides, whatever you're doing, take care. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you then.